Welcome to Infinity Kingdom. Today, I'm here with Boss Nasty, the leader of the Syndicate Alliance in Kingdom 8. Is it even called the Kingdom?
For lack of better words, a server, but I still say kingdom.
Okay, we'll do that again. Welcome to Infinity Kingdom. Today, I'm here with a good friend to give you 5 tips for brand new players inside of this great game. What is up, my friends? My name is Echo, and welcome back to the channel where today I'm bringing you a brand new game that I'm really excited about. One that I've made a massive investment into. And with me, I have a good friend, Boss Nasty, who is the leader of the Syndicate Alliance over in Kingdom 8 within the game. He's going to be giving us some great tips that he's kind of accumulated over the last month or month and a half of playing this game. Boss, what's going on, man? How you doing, bro?
Doing well, Echo. Doing well. Happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you, especially because you've been helping me along the way. So I really felt this was really just natural to have you on and kind of share with all the viewers some tips that, you know, when you first download the game and you really don't know what you're doing, you need to know those initial steps so you don't make some big mistakes in the beginning. So you're here to give them to us. So I appreciate it, man.
Oh no, happy to do so. I think it's always good when we can give any new players, or even if they've been playing for a while, some really good direction in the beginning.
I love it, man. And before we get into that, guys, make sure you sub the channel, ring the bell. We are going to have many more Infinity Kingdom videos for you, but also, little sneak peek here. Boss Nasty has a channel of his own. I'll be linking that down below, and we'll talk more about that later on in the video. All right, Boss Nasty, tell us tip number 1.
All right, Echo. Tip number 1 for anyone just starting out is going to be your castle. And most importantly about the castle, for those of you who are Kingdom Builder players or your veterans, this may be familiar, but min-maxing, which essentially is, right, you're doing the minimum amount of investment to get the maximum amount of return. And so for castle, you want to focus on doing your prerequisites. And that basically means that after your castle upgrades, you want to then immediately start upgrading any of the required buildings to then start getting to the next castle level as fast as possible. And there's a few reasons why. One, because like in other games, you may have a separate building that you would upgrade in order to get more alliance helps, right? A lot of people are familiar with, you always want to max out your helps before you use things like speed ups. Your castle acts also like that building. So the higher castle level you have, the more helps that you are able to get from your alliance members to get the max time reduction on your castle and any future buildings. Now, the recommendation here is that after you upgrade your castle, you should immediately upgrade your academy and then work on your prerequisites. After that, once you have all your prerequisites done and your castle is upgrading, the moment that you have a free building queue, you should then be focusing on your RSS buildings in order of your dwelling, which is gold, your quarry, your smeltery, which is iron. Always have to remember they added another resource compared to the last game I played, and then quarry, which is stone, food for your lumber mill wood, and then your farm for food last.
All right, great order. And I was actually able to keep along with you and show everyone where all those were because I'm familiar with the game, man. We've been playing this thing nonstop. So after we get all of those upgrading while the castle itself is upgrading, we're in good hands. Is that the end of tip 1? That seems pretty good, pretty easy.
Yeah, no. That is the end. Short, sweet, and simple is how I like to keep it.
Now, I know that a couple of the things that you may have to upgrade are going to include your wall before you can upgrade your castle. Oftentimes, it's going to be one of your barracks, and a lot of times it's going to be your training grounds, correct?
It is, yeah. Training grounds is going to be your prerequisite for wall. And then usually once you start getting to the higher levels, there is somewhat of a format to it as well. And there's a couple players out there that have done some good crowdsourcing pieces of information to let you know what you need as the future prerequisites for higher levels. And typically it's usually one of your barracks buildings that rotates in and out as you start climbing those levels.
That could be another video. So let's get into tip number 2.
All right, Echo. Tip number 2 is focus on one troop march or one troop composition. And the main reason why is because in this game, having a primary troop, right, you have up to 4 troop composition marches that you can have as you're leveling up. But focusing on a primary is vastly important for a few reasons. One, because it'll allow for you to invest and make it farther in something like Well of Time, which you would see in your bottom right-hand corner. It looks like a little brick with a well and a green thing in it. And that is kind of like a PvE chapter stage that you can advance in addition to, if you go outside of your city, you can also attack higher level gnomes. Now, gnomes are essentially how you get experience for your immortals to raise their level. You can also acquire equipment where you can upgrade that as well and eventually get higher tiers. It'll also allow for you to contribute more when you are attacking or sieging on cities. And that's because every siege or every city, excuse me, has a garrison power. And typically how that works in short is that you want to try and have your troop power be equal to or stronger than the garrison power in order to get victories against it. You can still do damage as well, even if you're under it. But all of those things, even including something like Mysterium, right, which you'll get at level 15, which is inside your city, and it looks like the well that's just south of the academy. Those are the four big things that focusing on one troop march really does well for you. And that's why it's good to invest resources and just focus on 4 immortals. An example of a starting composition that is very free to play friendly, which is one of the reasons why I love the game so much, is water is extremely easy because when you start out in a new kingdom, there's a 7-day event. And that 7-day event offers you an immortal Helen of Troy, who is an elite. And if you work in someone like a Brynhild, who's a front line, a Lancelot, who's a front line, a Tomoe Gozen, who's a back line, right? You have a very easy, free-to-play starter water composition, adding on the water dragon that you can focus on because you already get starting materials for. So that's why it's good to really invest your resources into one troop.
Yeah, and this is great because you guys actually were helping me with this today. It's one of the first questions that I had as well, like what immortals am I actually investing into? Because at some point you're going to run out of resources. So I love that you were able to put together that exact composition for me, which I was just showing on the screen. Plus we had the dragon that we were showing in there as well. And it really just gave me a right step forward. So I knew exactly what to upgrade. And now you guys know too. All right, boss, give us tip number 3.
All right, Echo. Tip number 3 is utilizing your action points and your stamina points effectively. Now, we're going to start with action points. And the 2 most important things to progress and to develop when it comes to action points is going to be really gnomes, right? Which in other games, some of you might refer to them as barbarians, wink, wink. But gnomes are by far probably the one thing you're going to be doing the most or utilizing the most for your action points. And then in addition to that, and even before I touch on that, right? So gnomes, even if you just click on a random gnome on the map, you'll notice that you're going to get, as I now have to scroll out, but you're going to get EXP for your immortals, as we said before. You'll get gear, you'll get resources. These are all vastly important. Now, there's 3 different gnome types, right? And each type is going to give you a different type of equipment. So a tip here, or a sub tip, if you will, is what we do a lot is we will rotate our attacks. So for example, we'll do, if you're leveling up, right, we'll do a level 1 of each type. So we'll make sure we clear level 1 of each type. Then we'll do the same thing for level 2. We'll clear each type, which is the Trents, the Bakans, and the Rogues. And we'll do that each as we level up. And even once you get to a point where you have to wait to increase your troop power, we'll just do the same thing. So if I have to wait a while to attack a level 13, right, I'll just do 12s all day long, and I'll just rotate 1, do the next, and then recycle it again. But outside of that, beyond the gnomes, the gnome bosses, right, this is how you get your dragon shards to upgrade 4 types of dragons, right? Which you have your lightning, you have your earth, you have your water, and you have your fire. Right, those are the 4 gnome bosses that are available. Now, it is extremely important when it comes to utilizing your action points to make sure that you are always having your treasury filled up. Now, you can only fill it up with 3 chests, but it's always important to have the treasury maxed out. So you're going to be spending a little bit of your action points daily just to do gnome bosses. After you have the treasury filled up, then go right back to doing gnomes, and especially when events like double rewards come up. Then let's get to stamina points. So with stamina points, you're going to be utilizing these in Well of Time. And there's two big things here for Well of Time, is that you always want to try, this is similar to like an expedition, wink wink for those of you friends on the other side of the pond, is that you want to always try to progress as fast as you can, but more importantly, as far as you can in Well of Time. Because as you clear some of these stages that give you the 3 stars, you can then do quick raids on them, meaning that you do not have to go back and do them. You can just do like a basically like a fast, quick raid that lets you collect the resources and the materials, because you will need some of these to upgrade your immortal grades as well. And then the last thing is that by clearing a full chapter, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., there is a book that's in the bottom left corner of Well of Time. And this is really important too as well, because there are some kind of pinnacle stages that you want, or chapters I should say, that you want to try to get to. The first one is going to be getting to your fast building, which I believe is at 5.8 if it looks like that on your screen. But that gets you the 10% building upgrade speed. And then there's 8.8, which gets you the increased tech upgrade speed. And even 9.8 and 10.8 are really important, just because gold is such a finite resource. But those are the most important things when it comes to how to utilize your action points and your stamina points as effectively as you can. And the last thing I'll tell you about Well of Time is, don't let the recommended power fool you. You may be able to attack higher level stages than the amount of troop power that you actually have.
So don't doubt yourself, you're saying.
Exactly.
Nice.
I
love it.
Be a little risky with it.
That was an in-depth tip with a lot of information, but I think that we displayed it well. People can always go back a little bit and listen to it again if they got confused, but if I understood it, they can understand it. So let's move on to the next tip. So now we're going to hop into the academy for the 4th tip. Boss Nasty?
Echo, you are just too kind. So for the 4th tip, we're going to talk about the academy. And the academy, a pretty familiar building in a lot of other kingdom builders. But for this, you have 4 tabs, or 4 tree branches, if you will, right? We have production, we have troops, we have immortal, and defense. Now, typically in these games, a lot of people want to focus on increasing things like your building speed and your research speed. Those are usually by far the most important. You're going to find those in the production tree. Speedy construction is the first tech, which increases your building speed. This can get maxed to 30% at level 10. And then if you scroll a little bit to the right, I think it's at around the 7th or 8th column, you'll find the tech speed increase, which is called rapid progress. Now, these are probably your 2 most important techs that you want to do. Now, the recommendation here is, and again, this is why it is connected to that first tip we gave about focusing on upgrading the castle as quickly as you can, waiting for those max helps, because after that, as we said, you want to upgrade the academy. So as you continue to do that, you want to focus on your production tree. You always want to make sure that you are maxing out while focusing on upgrading speedy construction and then rapid progress the moment that they become available. And you always want to have your production tree maxed out, because as you increase your academy level, you always want to be ready to start researching the next techs that are going to get you to these techs faster. Now, after you have the production tree maxed, the next recommendation really is to focus on the immortal tree. And veteran, which is the first tech there, is fantastic because it increases the experience that your immortals gain from battle. Right, and mostly this is really from PvE, this is from attacking gnomes, but it pairs well with other events like a double rewards, as we mentioned previously. And then as you go down a little bit more in the tree, right, you'll find another useful tech, which is on the 4th column. It's called boost consumption, which is basically just decreasing the amount of gold it costs to level up your immortals. And this is specifically leveling them up from the skills and then the grades that you're going to level them up with as well. As gold is a very finite resource in the game, getting a tech like this is going to be extremely helpful. And then if you go a little bit farther down the tree to about the 8th column, you'll see outstanding talent is fantastic. And then the last one is going to be troops, right? And as a lot of us know who've played Kingdom Builders, march speed is extremely important. Thankfully, it's the first tech, which, you know, go devs for that. always good to make sure that you're working on that as well. And then eventually you'll get to something that is really good. And this is probably one of the next biggest things that you'll work on down the troop tree, which is on the fourth column. It's called abundant supplies. And this actually decreases the action point consumption that it takes. And the way that it works in game, which is a small sub tip, is that for every kilometer you move away from your city, that's 1 point. So the minimum you could do if a gnome was right next to your city is probably 101, right? The base is 100 AP it costs just to move. For every kilometer, it's an additional point onto it. So if you're at 150 kilometers away, or excuse me, if you're at 50 kilometers away, it's 150 action points. 250 or 150 kilometers, it's 250 action points. So that's a great, fantastic one. And that's probably a good like 7 or 8 techs that you really want to focus on in the priority order. Defense is kind of like its own thing that gets a little more detailed. But I think that's a fantastic starting point for any new players.
Yeah, I mean, defense doesn't even open up until level 15. So if you're new, you're not going to have to worry about that one for a while. And as I was able to show here, I've been doing most of my focus here on the production, which looks like I'm on the right path that you've recommended. Patting myself on the shoulder right now. But great. Always keep the research going. And anytime I've learned that you could conserve or get more gold inside of the game, you want to make moves towards doing that, because as you said, it's the most finite, it's the most difficult to attain. So do that gold. Tip number 5 is focused on Lord Talents.
Yeah, guys. Now, Lord Talents is essentially kind of an extension of the Academy. It's something very similar and comparable that they've added in the game that just give you an additional way to develop your account or even tap into the military side. Now, we're just going to touch on the development tree for now, and we're just going to talk about the first few. So the most important one in the beginning is massive construction. This increases your building upgrade speed. You can max this to 10% compared to big yields, which increases your resource production. This is great too, but the building speed is going to give you better value. Okay. Now on the second row, the recommendation here is to go with experienced, and this increases the XP that you get from fighting gnomes by 100%. So you're getting double value. And these are on a 6-hour cooldown, so you can store them up to 4. And essentially how these work is that if you click on a gnome, you will have an option to then select unique skills that you can apply to those PvE units on the map. And you can also use this for gnome bosses. And there's even separate skills on the military tree that you can even activate when you are attacking or defending from other players' cities. This is like a fantastic mechanic that I really love about the game that isn't in other games, at least that I've played. And then the next row we'll talk about, which is the third row, right? You want to go plentiful gold here. As we've touched on before, and we've already said a couple times, gold is the hardest resource really to accumulate. So it's always great, especially because you get 10% from here. Right. Now, the next 2 rows we're just going to touch on real quick is Divine Walker. This increases your marching speed by 50%, and it reduces your marching AP cost to 0. I cannot tell you how amazing it is that you can send a march out and it does not cost action points. This is a big win. And then the last one we're going to touch on here on the development tree is Leaps and Bounds. And this increases your tech upgrade speed from your academy, right? Similar to the construction one, which is on the first row, you get 10% from this as well. And those are going to be like the first 5 that you really want to focus on the development tree. And this should take you to about Lord level, let me see here, 21 is what it's going to happen, because you don't start getting Lord talent points until Lord level 5. But that is going to be the best tip there when it comes to what to focus on early on in your Lord talent tree.
And now I do see there's a refresh button on there. Is it free to refresh and start this over if you happen to not do it the right way, or do you have to spend to do that?
Okay, yes. So for the refreshes, right, if you want to do that, you have to use 200 green gems. So it's pretty inexpensive, which is nice.
That's not bad at all, actually. But I have to tell you, you would be proud of me, because I am right along the path that you mentioned. So I already now have that same direction. And what I think we should do, boss, is have another video very soon really breaking down both of these trees and just a specific video about the trees. And we could really do that with a whole bunch of other elements of the game that we've talked about so far today. But I'm gonna throw a quick question on you, a little question in your lap here. If you have to choose one of the different types of class that you can go into the game, because you have 3 choices when you first download the game and you have to choose like what you're gonna start out as, what would you recommend, or does it really not matter?
Oh man, I'm always getting put on the spot with this one. So with the current meta right now, some people will tell you that the priority order, and this is based on what we have seen, because I've been playing since server 5, which the first 8 servers were beta servers, and server 9 was the first one with global release. People will tell you, some may say I should say, is that you would want to focus red and then green, which is Ruslan, green Vetus, and then blue is Yidvia. In my opinion, though, and a brief thing for why people say that is because with red, you get the Cav buff, and there at times can be some better Cav epic units, just depending on element compositions and immortal compositions that you run, at least early on with where the game is now. But in my opinion, in the long game, as most of us know who've played Kingdom Builders that have any kind of commanders, characters, immortals, the meta can always change. All it takes is one buff or one debuff from a patch, or one addition or a few additions to a specific element type, as it is in this game, of some additional immortals to immediately change that. So my recommendation really is, if you're going in as a solo player, just pick the faction that is going to give you that recommended starting bonus reward, which is some gems and I think some VIP points. If you're going in with a small group or even a larger group, right, then you guys can just go to the same faction regardless if you get the bonus or not. But if you're solo, definitely go ahead and get those little bitty extra free rewards.
Well, that quick question turned into a long answer, and it hopefully gave people, I mean, honestly, people that are probably watching this already chose their faction, but it doesn't matter. I wanted to know what you thought anyway. But boss, I know that you also have a YouTube channel, and maybe it's not your full-time thing, but you put out some great information on that channel about Infinity Kingdom. Do you want to tell anyone really quickly about what you're doing over there?
Yeah, sure. You know, it's really just a passion project for me. And the main reason I actually started doing it was just because there wasn't any content out about the game. And when I eventually went onto the IK official Discord, I just noticed a lot of people were asking questions. There were a good amount of people giving answers, but there just wasn't a lot of resources. And so that's a lot of what I do on my channel, is just try to give good information, good tips, and just take a very, I guess, broad educational approach on a lot of different areas about the game.
Yeah, and I'm going to be watching, and I have already watched a bunch of those videos. What I'm going to be doing for everyone watching, because honestly, if you guys are here at this point in the video, you really are invested in this game and you want to learn more. So you can stay tuned for my channel to have more content, or you can go over to Boss Nasty's channel, which I'm going to be linking in the description of this video. Make sure you go check him out and watch some of his stuff. And if you like what he's teaching you, give him a subscription as well. I could almost guarantee you guys, though, that he will be back on this channel again and again, and probably again after that. So because I mean, like I said, I'm still learning the game as well. I'm never going to represent myself as a pro until I actually feel that I understand the game 100%. But boss, thanks so much for coming down today, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, no, man, Echo, it has been an absolute pleasure. And man, it is just awesome to show off a really cool, new and fun game.
Yeah, I completely agree. Many video ideas are in my head coming very soon for you guys. I want to give a shout out to the Syndicate Alliance in the 8 server, whatever we're even calling that, Kingdom 8. I don't even know if people can get in there anymore, but you know what? That's where it's at. That's where the Alliance is what we call home. A lot of great people over there. So much love and thank you guys all for the help. But we're out of here for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you comment below with your thoughts. And always remember, I do have a Discord server that you guys can come check out. It's going to be the pinned comment down below. Take care, guys, and be good.